Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of The Flash. And we start off the episode with a heist. The bad guys are trying to steal a diamond, and it was on its way to Central City Museum when a bunch of guys try to rob the armored van that being held in. And of course, the Flash comes to the rescue. Well, does he really? Some people get shot, they're sent to the hospital, but we do have a new bad guy on the prowl, and we have our team at Star's Lab trying to figure out what is going on. What I found interesting with this episode was the device that was pretty much Barry's kryptonite in this episode was actually made at Star's Lab, and Cisco made it, and he made it back before they knew who Barry was and before they knew that they could actually be able to trust who Barry turned into. And it was a device that would freeze, I guess, would basically go against the like anybody with speed. So because Barry can run so fast, the freezing, I don't know, stuff that would come out of the gun would slow him down and would not allow him to be as fast as he normally is. And so when the bad guys got a hold of this gun, they used it against Barry, and it basically gave him like a third degree burn. And if his cells didn't regenerate as quickly as they do, he would have died. So it was interesting to see them try to take down this enemy. And in this episode, Barry gets a wonderful visitor in Felicity Smoke, and we all know her from Arrow. And if we all remember back in Arrow season 2, when Barry came over to visit Oliver Queen and Diggle and Felicity, Barry and Felicity had some pretty good scenes together. And me personally at the time said, look, those two had a lot of chemistry, and it showed again in this week's episode. I've been enjoying Felicity more, and I think that her coming over to visit Barry made a lot of sense because she hasn't seen him since he came out of the coma. And, you know, they spent a couple episodes mentioning him back in Arrow season 2, that Barry was still in the coma and that Felicity was concerned about him. So it was nice to see her show up here, and she met Iris. And we all know that Iris is Barry's best friend, and he has a huge crush on her, and he hasn't told her that he's in love with her. Well, he hasn't said those words, but we all know that that's what he feels. But her attention is elsewhere, and that's on Eddie, and that is her dad's partner. I'll get to that storyline in a second. But all the stuff with Felicity I thought was great. And, she integrated herself at Star's Lab. And, she even mentions the Arrow. And they're like, do you know who the Arrow is? And then they look at Barry. They're like, do you know who the Arrow is? So it was a cute little moment because, no one's supposed to know who the Arrow is. And so it was a nice little moment. She even got all excited to see Harrison because obviously, Felicity and Barry are pretty much cut from the same cloth. They're very smart, they're very into sciences, and Harrison is like a big wig in, for those, nerdy guys and gals. So when she meets him, she's all excited. And so it was a cute little moment, and she gets to hang out with Barry's little Scooby gang. And, it's a good few scenes that they have together, short but good. And I think Felicity coming and seeing who Barry's kind of turning into is great because obviously we all know that Barry's personality has come out more. He's a little bit more confident since he's turned into the Flash, because we all remember what he was like on Arrow, and he was all a little bit more introverted and shy. And so and I've been enjoying to see who Barry is turning into. At the end with when Felicity, okay, so there's a moment in the episode when they go out on this double date, and I'm sorry, but I love Felicity and everything, but what was she wearing? It was a bit much. And it felt like it was a little heavy handed in this episode, them trying to be like, look, Felicity and him have so much chemistry. They do. So that's like not what I was like kind of rolling my eyes at, but it was just like sort of the heavy hand that they're totally perfect for each other, which they kind of are. And she even says it at the end of the episode, like, what's wrong with us? We're both pining over people that, or he says it, we're both pining over people that don't want us, and we're pretty much perfect for one another. And, he says, I guess it's true, opposites do attract. And, I like that they at least brought her here to sort of squash any of those thoughts that people were thinking back when Barry was on Arrow, because I was even thinking it like those would be that these two would be a really great pairing. But let's face it, we all know that Felicity's in love with Oliver, and they even had their moment in this season already. But the fact that Barry leans in for the kiss at the end again shows how much swagger he's gotten since he's turned into the Flash, and I kind of like that because we clearly know that he's getting nothing but shade from his bestie Iris. So speaking of Iris, let me just get this out of the way. So I think one of the problems that I have with all type of superhero shows where you always leave it's always the love interest or somebody who is kind of a little bit like is out of it is important but they're not in the know. So everybody else knows what's going on in Barry's life, but Iris doesn't. And it's pivotal to the fact that she gets no character development on the show because she's just floundering around. She's working at her little cafe. She's talking to her dad. Like, everything's just fine, but she doesn't really know what's going on. And Barry can't explain to her all the things that are going on. They're supposed to be best friends, but he cannot express the most important parts of his life. So because of that, I feel that this puts this relationship, friendship, whatever, way, way on the bottom of the list in terms of what I want to see on the show. And I think that that always happens. It happened on Arrow with Laurel. She had no idea what was going on with Oliver, and her character pays a hard price for that. Where we all love Felicity because she's in the know. She's there with Diggle. She's there with Oliver, and it works. And so in this, Iris is completely on the out. She doesn't know what's going on. So her dad's lying to her. Her best friend's lying to her. And of course, we're just going to wait for that day when she finds out. And then she's upset with all of them, rightfully so. But, meanwhile, she's cuddling with Eddie over here, who's like dull as dirt. Like, hello. He has no personality either. So I feel like whenever it comes to those scenes, trust me, I want to like her. And I want to like who Barry is in love with. But because they have not allowed her to become central to the storyline, she's just a blah blah character. And that sucks because I feel like she could do far more than what she's doing right now. Like, she comes in and is like, I'm doing a blog. And then it's like, we see her. It's just, I feel like there's no point to her storylines at this point. And that sucks. So I'm going to move on because I could probably go on and you don't want to hear that. I did enjoy the stuff with the father, basically telling her, look, I don't want to hear about your relationship with Eddie because I need to be focused on my job. And if I'm focused on your relationship with Eddie, then I'm not going to be his, there for him, or he's not going to be there for me. And then he gets kind of taught a lesson when Eddie steps in and saves his life. So it was good to see that that did happen. But again, I just don't really care. Of course, Joe had some good scenes with Barry, and that it wasn't too heavy-handed this episode, because I feel like last week's episode and the week before, when it was all about the father-son relationship between the two of them, really works. So we don't need to beat that over the head, and we already know that Joe's really in Barry's corner at this point, and any little tidbits he can get from Barry during a case is always great. And I like that scene when he's like flipping through the phone book, or not the phone book, the suspect book really quickly. And then he's like, that's him right there. And it was just like, bam, it was really cool. So we had a little bit of a hiccup between the Stars Lab group and Barry this week because, of course, he was angry that he didn't realize that Cisco had made this weapon that could be used against him. And he was all upset because he's like, well, you don't trust me. What's going on? And so he had a little meltdown, and then ultimately the team came to his aid and they helped him out, which was fun to see because these guys it's not, I keep going back to Arrow, they're not like Arrow where Oliver's a fighting machine and Diggle's a fighting machine, and now we have Roy who's a fighting machine, and Sarah, but poor Sarah, but these guys are just like this ragtag team that are brain smart, but they're not like in the field smart, you know what I mean? So when Cisco's standing there, he's like, I'm gonna, blow you away with this mega machine I've made, and it's like a vacuum. It's pretty funny. But so the team had a little bit of a rough patch this episode, but Felicity said, listen, he might say that he doesn't want you there to support him, but ultimately he does. You guys are a team and you're there for each other at all times, so that was nice to see. And I like, even at the very beginning of the episode, Barry's like, one of the things that I got after being struck by lightning is I got friends. And that was really nice because obviously he's very introverted. He's sort of beats to his own drum because, again, that scene with him and Felicity and Iris and Eddie on that double date, obviously it was everything like the smart people were getting everything and the other two were sitting there like, duh, I don't really know what's going on. And so he's sort of been awkward all of his life. And now he's got some people that he likes and he enjoys, and he's playing ping pong and chess and Operation, and he's having a good time. So when he feels betrayed by the end, midway through the episode, you kind of feel for him because he's like, yeah, what more do I have to prove that you can trust me, kind of thing. So again, another good episode. Was it Miller Wentworth, I think is his name, was the villain in this week's episode, and they basically let him go at the end because he wasn't a metahuman. He was just a bad guy trying to steal a diamond. And at the end, he ends up talking to some mystery guy and basically telling him that he's going to need some more reinforcements because he's not done here in Starling City. So obviously he's going to be up to no good in the future, and he's going to be a hindrance to Star's lab. One of the things that I did not enjoy, but was interesting with Harrison and talking to Felicity, because Felicity was questioning some things like, what happens if this happens to Barry? What happens if that happens to Barry? And Harrison basically said, listen, we here at Stars Labs are doing everything we can to protect Barry. You can trust us on that. And it's sort of like, yeah, clearly Harrison has some things up his sleeve that we are just not privy to at this point. But he is definitely not going to let anything happen to Barry on his watch. All right, guys, so let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Did you enjoy Felicity coming over? Did you like that kiss at the end? I did. I had a big smile on my face because I was like, yay, finally Barry gets some, like he's constantly pining over a girl that doesn't realize that he's madly in love with her. Fine if we're supposed to have blinders on and believe that she doesn't know it. But, again, she says to him, like, obviously she knows he's a great guy. She's not pushing him away because she's not interested. She just doesn't know. And to be fair, I think that the show just needs to spend some time to develop her character, because at this point she is severely underdeveloped, and that's not a good thing. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'll see you next week. Bye.